Hey all, welcome to Homeschool. Hope everybody are doing fantastic. And I am with class 11 chemistry series. I also started class 11 physics series where the units and dimensions chapter or the units and measurements chapter is going on. Already two parts are over. Coming to chemistry, first chapter is already completed. I am with the second chapter, structure of atom, which is the most important chapter to understand. See, in my previous video, I gave every information about atomic spectra, two types of atomic spectra, that is absorption spectra, emission spectra. What do you mean by line emission spectra? All that. See, all these video links are provided in the description. Even on physics chapter, playlist link is there in the description. You can go and watch it out if you have not yet watched. Okay, so coming to today's topic, it's going to be a really an interesting session and the most important topic where most of them will get confused, okay, in understanding a concept, that is our Bohr's model of an atom. Okay, so our today's topic is very important both for competitive examinations as well as board examinations. Bohr's model of an atom. Okay, see, finally we have come to this model. To learn this model, we have learnt the dual nature of electromagnetic radiation and about atomic spectra. There is definitely a connection between those concepts and this model. Bohr, before he gave certain postulates on structure of atom, he carefully studied the line emission spectrum of hydrogen. Okay, so what did he study? I can say that he gave his model based on, line emission spectrum of hydrogen atom. See, he has done an experiment. He took hydrogen gas, and he supplied some electricity or, he supplied some external energy, okay, in the form of radiations, or he has done heating of this hydrogen gas. What he observed was emission of radiation took place from hydrogen gas. Radiation in the sense it's any electromagnetic radiation. And when he passed this electromagnetic radiation through prism, you know what? You will observe a beautiful spectrum of hydrogen, okay, where a series of lines have formed. Okay, so this is one series of line, this is another series of line, this is third series of line, like that he observed series of lines. So he carefully studied this particular spectrum, and Bohr was successful in giving an explanation about why and when an atom or molecule or any chemical substance can emit radiation. See, whenever we heat or whenever we supply electricity, it will emit radiation, I told. So why? Why actually it emits a radiation? What actually happens within the atom? That was beautifully explained by Bohr. Okay, so all that we are going to learn, how he could explain, what did he tell that, why this radiation is emitted, when this radiation gets emitted, all that we will learn later. Okay, say before we go for why and when this radiation emits, why these many series of lines are formed, let us talk about Bohr's postulates. Once you understand the depth of Bohr's postulates, you can yourself, can make an explanation for getting hydrogen spectrum, something like this. Okay, so we will go back to hydrogen spectrum, etc. again after learning Bohr's postulates. Okay, so before we go for Bohr's postulates, one more thing you have to be clear with, that is, yes, Bohr's postulate is completely real. There is no, there are certain limitations. Okay, it's not that the postulates are completely wrong. This is one of the very important model actually, but this is not the final model for an atom. There is one more model, that is final quantum mechanical model. So why didn't the world accept this Bohr's model? It's because it has a greatest limitation. The Bohr's theory, this point is very, very important. This Bohr's theory is applicable. It is applicable only for single electron species. So this is really very important. Applicable only for single electron species. Is that clear? Fine. So what do you mean by single electron species? Any atom, ion, or anything that has single electrons in it, then it is called single electron species. Examples for single electron species. It is hydrogen atom. Hydrogen, atomic number 1. There is only one electron in hydrogen. So hydrogen is an example. And also helium plus. Helium's atomic number 2. Helium's atomic number 2. If you remove one electron, you will get helium plus ion. So one electron is left out. Yes or no? One electron gone out and one electron is left. So helium plus can be an example for single electron species. Not only helium plus, I can also give Li plus 2. Okay. So I can also say Be plus 3. That's it. So these are single electron species. So any ion or atom with single electron, maximum possibility is these things. So they are the best example for single electron species, and our Bohr's theory is only applicable for these guys, not for any atom, not for any molecule. Okay, so this is the greatest limitation of Bohr's theory. But whatever he told was everything true. Okay, you can't deny it. Now let us understand the Bohr's postulate one by one. So I am going to give a complete explanation about Bohr's postulates. So listen with utmost concentration. Understanding a concept is more important than by hearting the postulates. See, postulates can be asked for board examination. You can write it point wise, but for the competitive exams like CET, NEET and JEE, understanding a concept is important. Okay, fine. So the very first postulate of Bohr says nucleus is present at the center. Okay, and electrons are present in circular orbits called shells. Okay, say nucleus is there at the center and there are something like circular orbits. Okay, in these orbits electrons are present. So what will I write? Electrons are present in circular orbits. Okay, and these orbits we can also call them as energy states or energy levels or stationary states. Okay, so for example, this is our first shell. Okay, and this energy levels is represented with a letter small n. So this is n is equal to 1 shell, this is n is equal to 2 shell, this is n is equal to 3 shell. Like that, many shells can be present around the nucleus. In a shell, electrons are located. Okay, but there is a point that need to be understood. The energy of an electron has some fixed values in a particular energy level. Okay, say electron has certain amount of energy. Only when we have energy we can move, isn't it? Just like that, electron also some energy. With that, it moves around the nucleus, right? So energy is compulsory for an electron, right? And the energies are fixed in a particular energy levels. For example, just try to understand this. If this is a nucleus, this is the first shell, this is the second shell, this is the third shell, and you know what? Electron present in the first shell will have an energy of around 13.6 electron volts. Here energy has a negative sign. Why it has negative sign? I'll tell you little later. Just concentrate the value. And how do you get the value 13.6? That also I'll tell you little later. Just try to understand the concept here. Imagine there is some electron in the first shell and which is having an energy minus 13.6 electron volt. And the electron which is present in the second shell, second energy level, will have an energy of around minus 3.6 electron volt. And the electron which is present in the third energy level or third shell will have an energy around minus 0.8 electron volt, like that. The electron which is present in the fourth shell will have an energy of around minus 0.5 electron volt. You see here, energies of electron in a particular shell is fixed. Okay, say you can't find any other value. As long as this electron revolves in this energy level, it will have an energy of this much. Okay, electron cannot present here. Okay, electron cannot present here, and you cannot expect electron having an energy of 10.5 electron volt. I mean the number which comes in between this. No. Okay, see, electron can present in only those energy levels where its energy is fixed. Okay, I repeat the sentence once again. Electrons can present in only those shells or energy levels in which the energy of electron is fixed. You can never expect the electron present in whichever energy level they want. No. When an electron has this much energy, it should be present in first energy level only. Okay, if the first energy level can give a place for electron only if it has energy of this much, right? So I will write one important point here. Okay, only those energy levels, or I can write this way, electrons can present in only those energy levels in which its energy is fixed. Right? Very, very important point. This is what we call quantization of energy. You must have heard the word quantization, right? Quantization of energy means this itself. Right? Say quantization means what? Only some fixed values are allowed. Say just like quantization of money. I told you during Planck's quantum theory about the word quantization. Right? See, we have money, we have 100 rupees note, we have 200 rupees note, we have 500 rupees note, but we don't have 150 rupees note. We don't have 250 rupees note. Only few valued money is allowed in a society, right? Only few notes are allowed with few numbers. Okay, say if you want 150 rupees, it's not possible to have a number 150 on a particular note. Right? So only few notes with certain numbers are allowed. Like that, only few energies are allowed. Okay, either electron can have this much energy, or electron can have this much energy, or electron can have this much energy. If an electron which has this much energy can only stay in the first energy level, that is in this orbit only, in this region only. Okay, if an electron has this much energy, it can only stay in the second energy level. It cannot stay in first energy level. It cannot even stay in the third energy level. Right? So this energy levels or electrons have fixed energy. Okay, and they can stay there itself. Right? So this concept we will call it as quantization of energy. So it's very, very important point to understand. Okay, so electrons are present in different energy levels with fixed amount of energy. Okay, they can't be present in whichever energy shell they want. No. Okay, the energy of electron and the shell number must match. Right? Fine. So this is one of the postulate that you need to understand very well. Now let me go for the second postulate. Coming to second point, guys, it's very simple. Electron do not absorb or emit energy as long as it revolves in a same orbit. Okay, as long as this electron with this much energy is revolving in a same orbit, it will not absorb extra energy from outside and it will not emit energy also. So that way, you know what, he gave justification for the stability of atom. Do you know the limitations of Rutherford? We studied that. Say why Rutherford's theory was not acceptable. It's because he said nucleus is there at the center. He also said electron will revolve in a circular things called orbit. But he said you have a nucleus at the center and electron keeps revolving around this nucleus. But when a charged body continuously revolves in a circular fashion, it must emit energy. Okay, so that way, as it revolves around the nucleus, it will lose all its energy one fine time and it may come and fall on a nucleus. So the atom collapse, the atom becomes unstable. Okay, here also it's a charged body. When it is moving, you know what, you may expect that it will lose energy and it will fall on a nucleus. He says no, that will never happen. What happens here is, as long as with certain energy it is revolving in this region only, it will not emit energy, it will not absorb energy, so that it can continuously stay here itself. So you don't have any chances of this electron falling on a nucleus. Okay, so this point is giving justification for stability of atom. He said why atom is stable, why electrons, though they revolve around a nucleus, they will not fall on a nucleus, is because as long as these guys move in a orbit, they will not emit energy. That means they will not lose or gain energy. Okay, so that's why it stays there only, right? So this is giving justification for stability of atom. Right? Okay. And now let us talk about the third and important point. He said as long as it is there here, it will not absorb or emit energy. But when does it can emit or absorb energy? See here, when you give some electromagnetic radiation from outside, okay, electron is here, you are supplying some energy from outside. Energy in the sense it's radiation. Okay, electromagnetic radiation you are supplying. You know what? Electron absorbs energy. Whenever you supply energy from outside, okay, the electron will absorb energy. On absorbing energy, it will jump to a higher energy level. It has got more energy now. Okay, so with that energy, you know what? It is jumping to a higher energy level. Okay, this electron can only stay in this energy level if it has energy of this much. But now this guy is getting more energy from outside because you are supplying. You are supplying the energy in the form of radiation. Okay, so this guy is now absorbing more energy. Now its energy is more. No, it cannot stay here. Its energy has become more than this value. It cannot stay here. So where will it go? It will go to a higher energy level. Okay, it will go to higher energy level, right? So by absorbing radiation, always electron jumps to a higher energy level. This process we will call it as excitation of electron. Very important word, and this word we keep using frequently later. Okay, so you must understand what exactly we mean by electron excitation. Okay, so what will I write here? When an atom is exposed to radiation, or when radiation is supplied, electron absorbs radiation. Okay, absorbs radiation means electron gains energy, absorbs radiation. In other words, I can say electron gains extra energy. and jumps to higher energy level. Okay, and this process we will call it as excitation of electron. Okay, so whenever I use the word excitation, it means that when you supply radiation from outside, a particular electron can absorb that radiation, its energy gets increased. Once its energy becomes more, it cannot stay here, its energy more now, so it will go to the next level. Okay, fine. So how much energy is required for this electron to go to next level? The energy which is equal to the difference between the energies of second level and first level. Okay, so whenever it gains the energy which is equal to the difference between the energies of second and first level, only then it can jump to a second level. Okay, it's not that just by acquiring little energy. Okay, there must be some minimum energy. Okay, that energy must be equal to the difference between the energy of second level and the energy of first level. Right. So can you tell me what is the difference between the energies of second level and first level? You see here, this is energy of this electron in the second level is E2. Energy of this electron in the first level is E1. Okay, so what is the energy difference? E2 minus E1. That is, E2 is how much? It is minus 3.6 electron volt and minus 13.6 electron volt. So you will get the energy difference. I am calculating the energy difference. So you will get the value delta E. Delta E is equal to minus 10.2 electron volt you will get. Okay, so whenever electron gets this much energy from outside, only then it can jump from first energy level to second energy level. This is really very important. It's not that by getting any energy it is jumping to higher energy level. No. Okay, so when it gets this much energy from outside when you give this much energy, radiation having this much energy, only then it can absorb that energy and jump to a second level. Okay, if it has to jump to a third level, then you must give an energy equal to the difference between the energies of third level and first energy level. Okay, say if an electron present in the third level, what is the energy? This much. Electron present in the first level, what is the energy? This much. If an electron have to go from first level to third level, it want more energy. How much energy it need? It needs the energy that is equal to the difference between the energies of third level and first level. Okay, so this is what the concept you have to remember. Okay, so for the excitation of electron, that means if an electron want to go from first level to the second level or any other level, you need to supply energy from outside. So how much energy you have to supply? The supplied radiation's energy must be equal to the difference between the second level and first level. I mean, if it is jumping to second level. Okay, if it is jumping to third level, it must be this difference, energy must be equal to this energy difference, first and third. If it is jumping to fourth energy level, then very high energy is required. How much energy? That must be equal to the energy difference between fourth and first, like that. Okay, so this is what about excitation of electron. And now I will talk about de-excitation of electron. Okay, so now you understood, when I supply radiation or energy from outside, yes, electron can able to jump from lower energy level to higher energy level, like 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, like that. Okay, but now after, okay, I gave some energy, this electron has jumped to higher level. Now it is there. Okay, but there it cannot stay for a longer time. Okay, it will come back to its original position one fine day or one fine time. Okay, so when it comes back to its original energy level, then that point of time energy is released. Okay, so energy can be emitted from atom. This is why the energies are emitted from the atom. See, for the emission spectrum, we learned, whenever we heat a gas or atom, the atom emits certain radiation, and this, when you pass it through prism, you can record a spectrum, right? So, when does the atoms emit radiation? It is when they undergo something called de-excitation. When they undergo something called de-excitation. Okay, so what do you mean by de-excitation? Energy. Okay, when electron comes back to lower energy level or its original shell energy level from higher energy level, what will happen? Radiation is emitted. Okay, so now you understood the logic behind emission of radiation. Okay, with some energy it went to a higher level. Now there it's not happy, it want to go back to its home. So whatever energy it has acquired, that energy will get released when it is coming to a lower energy level. Okay, so energy getting released means what? Whatever radiation it has absorbed and went to higher level, that radiation it's giving back. Okay, so that is what the radiation emitted from the atom. Okay, that is when the radiation is emitted. So now you understood why the radiations are absorbed by the electron and why the radiations are emitted. Right? Got to know? So it is just like you people for the holidays, when you go to your relatives' home, you will not stay there permanently, right? Just 1 or 2 days you will stay and you will come back, right? So the same thing for the electron also. By absorbing radiation, it is going to higher level. Okay, for a fraction of seconds it will stay there, but it will not stay there permanently. One fine time it should go back to its original shape. So during that time, what would happen? Whatever extra energy it gained and jumped to a higher level, that extra energy it will release, it will give it back. Okay, so that energy is what we call emitted radiation. Right? So, and that process is called de-excitation. Got to know? So you should know the difference between excitation of electron and de-excitation of electron. Clear? And excitation, when do you find? When electron absorbs energy and goes to higher level. That is excitation. But when electron coming back to its original position from higher level, energy is emitted, radiation is emitted, and that process is de-excitation. And can you be able to guess how much radiation it will emit? While coming back to higher energy level to lower energy level, how much radiation it should emit? Same amount. Yes or no? With this much amount of energy, it jumped to higher level. While coming back, it should give out this much amount of energy only. That is more important. So how much energy it absorbs or how much energy it emits depends on from which energy level to which energy level the electron is going. Okay, so that emitted radiation's energy or absorbed radiation's energy is always equal to the difference between the energies of two energy levels. Okay, so this is the most important point to understand. Okay, so is that clear? And here one important formula Bohr has given. Okay, it's not actually a big formula. See, we know delta E, the difference between the energies of two energy levels. Okay, here the difference between the energies of first energy level and second energy level is E2 minus E1. Okay, say and this much must be the energy absorbed by the electron if it wants to go to a higher level, and this much must be the energy of emitted radiation when it is coming back to higher level to lower level. Okay, so that is equal to this difference, we know. And now you know what, we know the equation E is equal to h nu. Planck has given an equation between energy of radiation and frequency of radiation, right? Say instead of this E, I can write it as H nu is equal to E2 minus E1. E2 means energy of higher energy level. E1 means energy of electron which is present in the lower energy level. So here, if you want to calculate nu, I mean the frequency of this radiation, you know, nu is equal to E2 minus E1 by H. Say you can use this formula. Okay, so the particular radiation's frequency, say you want to know the absorbed radiation's frequency, or you want to know the emitted radiation's frequency, then you can always use this formula, and this is actually called as Bohr's frequency rule. Bohr's frequency rule. Okay, so this is a very important postulate. So third postulate is over. Actually, this is fourth postulate, and now we will go for fifth postulate. So I concluded the entire postulates into 5 main postulates. Okay, so you know, all the 5 is very important to understand. So coming to the last one. See, what Bohr says is, you know what, when electron is moving in a particular orbit, it has certain velocity, okay, or I can say it has certain momentum. What do you mean by momentum? Mass into velocity, right? What is momentum? Momentum is nothing but mass into velocity. Say when I continuously run here, or when I continuously walk here, I can say there is a momentum in me, right? That means with certain mass, I have certain weight or mass to my body. With certain mass, I am running or walking in a certain speed, right? This is what we call momentum, right? But when an object is moving circularly, okay, say this electron is moving in a circular fashion, then such a momentum of an object is called angular momentum. Okay, so we can't just talk about momentum in case of electron. Electron has a mass and it is moving with certain speed, so electron has momentum. But which type of momentum it is? It is angular momentum. Okay, so about angular momentum you will study in physics. Okay, so our electron has angular momentum. Angular momentum. Okay, so the formula for angular momentum is m into v into r. M in the sense mass of an electron, v is velocity of an electron, r is the radius of the shell in which the electron is moving. Shell is circular, right? So it is the radius of shell in which the electron is moving, right? So angular momentum of electron is equal to nh by 2 pi. Okay, Bohr has given a formula to calculate angular momentum of electron present in every shell. He says that always the value of angular momentum of an electron is integral multiple of h by 2 pi. Okay, say what he says is angular momentum of electron in a particular shell is equal to integral multiple of h by 2 pi. H by 2 pi. Okay, so in short we say MVR is equal to NH by 2 pi. Okay, it is the multiple of H by 2 pi, where N value is equal to 1, 2, 3, etc. So N is our shell number. What is this N? It is nothing but shell number. Okay, say for example, okay, if an electron is present in the first energy level, then its angular momentum is just h by 2 pi, because n value is 1. What is n? It's a shell number. Say the electron, if it is present in a second shell, then its angular momentum will be 2h by 2 pi. Okay, clear? If the electron is present in a third shell, then its angular momentum is 3h by 2 pi. If an electron is present in fourth shell, then its angular momentum is 4h by 2 pi. You see, h by 2 pi is common. H by 2 pi is common, right? And only the shell number differs. That means every electron has an angular momentum equal to, it is equal to integral multiple of h by 2 pi. Okay, so that n value only differs, right? So n value is what? It is nothing but a shell number. It is just Bohr has given the formula to calculate angular momentum of an electron, and he says that the electron's angular momentum is equal to integral multiple of h by 2 pi. Okay, so if it is present in first orbit, its value is h by 2 pi. If it is present in second orbit, its value is 2h by 2 pi. If it is present in third orbit, its value is 3h by 2 pi. If it is there in fourth, its value is 4h by 2 pi. Like that it varies. That means you can observe one thing, even the angular momentum is quantized. That means your electron has a fixed values of angular momentum. Okay, say when an electron is present in first shell, it has a fixed value. All electrons will have an angular momentum is equal to h by 2 pi only, right? So even angular momentum is quantized. Even angular momentum has fixed values when an electron is present in a particular energy level. Okay, so this is what about the meaning of the fifth postulate. Is that clear? Hope all the 5 postulates are very, very clear for you. Understanding a real meaning behind this is very, very important, not just by hatting. So not only this, Bohr has also given the formulas. He derived few formulas to calculate radius of a shell. Okay, because electron is there in a shell. It revolves around the nucleus in a shell, within a shell, right? So he gave a formula to calculate radius of a shell. He gave a formula to calculate energy of the electron. See, I wrote the value minus 13.6, minus 3.6, minus 0.8. You know, how did I calculate? Bohr has given a formula to calculate energy of electron. And he also gave a formula to calculate velocity of an electron. Okay, so I will also give those formulas for you. Actually, their derivations you will study in class 12 physics. In class 12 physics, you have a chapter called atoms. So in that chapter, you will clearly learn how to derive these formulas what Bohr has given. But now in chemistry, we don't learn the derivation, we just learn the formulas, because based on the formulas, numericals can be asked. Look at the formulas, guys. Here is a list of formulas I have written on a board in a simple form. Okay, so they are the much shortcut forms I mentioned, and their derivations I again telling you that you will not learn in chemistry, you will learn it in class 12 physics. Okay, so don't worry. See, radius of an orbit, if you want to calculate, then this formula, it is 0.529 n square by z. You will get your answer in angstrom. Okay, so we all know 1 angstrom is equal to 10 power minus 10 meter, or you must know this conversion, guys. 1 picometer, you can calculate this in picometers also. In picometer, it is 10 power minus 12 meter. 1 nanometer is equal to 10 power minus 9 meter. If you convert this in picometer, you will get the formula R is equal to, it is 52.9 n square by z picometer. Okay, say it depends on the question. If you have to calculate your answer in angstrom, this formula. If you want to calculate your answer in picometer, then this formula you can use. So here, what is this n? N is nothing but shell number. Here n is equal to shell number and z is equal to atomic number. Atomic number. Okay, so for hydrogen Z value is 1, for helium Z value is 2, for lithium Z value is 3, for beryllium, say all these formulas are applicable only for single electron species. This word you keep it in your mind. It is applicable only for single electron species. As I told you earlier, Bohr's theory is limited only to single electron species. Okay, so it can be applied for hydrogen atom, or it can be applied for He plus, or it can be applied for Li plus 2, or it can be applied for Be plus 3. Okay, so for hydrogen atomic number 1, that is Z value is 1. For He plus 2, Z value is 2. For Li plus 2, Z value is 3. For Be plus 3, Z value is 4. Okay, so Z everywhere, in every formula you have N and Z. N in the sense it is shell number, Z in the sense it is, atomic number of an atom or ion. Okay, fine. And now you see the formula to calculate velocity of electron, that is speed of electron. You are calculating the speed in terms of meter per second. The formula is 2.18 into 10 power 6 Z by N. It is Z by N. Here it is N square by Z, but here it is Z by N. Okay, fine. And now coming to the most important formula, guys, that is to calculate total energy of electron. Total energy of an electron is calculated mainly by this formula. You are calculating in which units? Electron units. That is, total energy is equal to minus 13.6 into Z square by N square. Z is atomic number of atom or ion. N is shell number. Actually, I'm using a word total energy. See, any electron can have two types of energy, right? Any body for that matter, it has two major types of energy, right? So here also, total energy of electron is equal to kinetic energy of electron plus potential energy of electron, right? Electron moves around the nucleus, so that moving energy, half mv square, whatever we learned in our previous classes, that is kinetic energy. And potential energy means some stored energy within the electron. Okay, so that energy also you should consider. And you have a separate formula for kinetic energy, separate formula for potential energy is there. When I join both of them and derive, we will get this final formula to calculate total energy. And this point is important. You must know total energy means it is sum of kinetic energy and potential energy of electron. Okay, so both of them have a separate formulas. When I add them and derive, I will get a formula to calculate total energy. See, different formulas in different units. If you want to calculate energy in terms of electron volt, then this formula. If you want to calculate energy in terms of joule per atom, then the formula is minus 21.8 into 10 power minus 19 Z square by N square. If you want to calculate energy in terms of kilojoule per mole, per atom energy of electron is this much. Per mole means 6.022 into 10 power 23 atoms. When you consider per mole, then the formula is minus 1312 into Z square by N square kilojoule per mole. Okay, so energy formulas are the most important topic here. Say, we have conversion between electron volt and joule, right? Say here 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joule. Say, it's not that you have to remember this formula. If you know this conversion factor, any one formula is enough. Later you can convert to another form. Okay, so at least try to remember the conversion between electron volt and joule. Okay, so these formulas are very, very important. And also remember, total energy means it is sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. Okay, we have put the formulas of these two derived and we got this simple one to calculate total energy. And you observe one thing, the energy is negative here, right? See, the formula is having a negative sign and there is an importance behind this negative sign, guys. Okay, so let me talk about why energy is carrying a negative sign. Okay, so why you are calculating energy in the form of negative values? So that we will try to understand now. See guys, explanation for the question why energy of electron is negative. Okay, so let me try to calculate you know what, energy of energy levels that is present in the hydrogen atom. Sorry. If this is a nucleus, this is the first shell, this is the second shell, this is the third shell, this is the fourth shell. Okay, so imagine if the electron, this is hydrogen atom, I'm taking hydrogen atom. Okay, say if the electron is present in the first shell. Okay, can you calculate energy of this electron with the formula? We have a formula, right? Total energy is equal to minus 13.6 Z square by N square electron volt. I'm calculating in electron volt. Okay, so here minus 13.6 Z square. Z is atomic number, so it is for hydrogen it is 1 square, and shell number is 1. So this is N is equal to first shell, N is equal to second shell, N is equal to third shell, N is equal to fourth shell. So divided by 1 square. So you will get the answer 13.6 electron volt for, you know, the electron which is present in the first shell. That means for the first shell, what is the energy? 13.6 electron volt minus 13.6 electron volt. Okay. Likewise, when you calculate for the second shell, total energy of electron which is there in second shell. Okay, then formula 13.6 Z square by N square electron volt is equal to minus 13.6 Z value, atomic number is 1, and second shell, now N value is equal to 2, no, so 2 square if you do, you will get around minus 3.4 electron volt. Right. So, if an electron is present in the second shell, then its energy have to be minus 3.4 electron volt. Likewise, when I calculate for the third one, I will get 0.8 electron volt. Likewise, when I calculate for the fourth one, I will get 0.5 electron volt. Okay. Likewise, you know, when I calculate for the fifth shell, you will get, you know, you see the value is becoming negative to positive. You see, minus 13.6, minus 3.4, minus 0.8, minus 0.5. So that means the value is going from negative to positive. It means what? It means what? Energy is increasing. Energy of electron increases as shell number increases. Okay, got to know. So this is what the meaning behind that negative sign. Negative means what? The energy is not decreasing, guys. See the value, first shell, electron in the first shell has minus 13.6, more negative value. Later negative value decreased. Negative value much more decreased, negative value much more decreased. That means negative to positive values. Your value is reaching to 0. You know what? There is a concept that if an electron is at infinity shell, then its energy is 0. Then its energy is 0. Why do we call its energy is 0? Is because, say, if the electron is somewhere very far, does it experience attraction from nucleus? Does that electron which is very far can experience an attraction from nucleus? No, right? You can't say that electron belongs to this atom. It is somewhere very far. It has become outsider now. Okay, so that is why we generally say if the electron is at infinity shell, you know, its energy is 0. So that means its energy is very much high. Okay, say as you go from one energy level to another to another, you know, as energy levels increases, your energy of electron increases. Okay. Is that clear? So that is the reason you have this negative sign. It means that the negative value is decreasing. Negative value decreasing means what? Actually, the digit is increasing, right? Negative value decreasing means the values are becoming negative to positive side, that is to zero side. That means logically speaking, the value is increasing. The energy of electron, when it goes from one energy level to another to another, its energy increases. Okay, so this negative sign tells you that energy of electron increases as shell number increases. Okay, so the outer shells have much higher energy compared to the inner shells. Is that clear? So always remember, in chemistry, if you have high energy, then that means less stable. Okay, so that means if electrons are very near to the nucleus, they experience attraction. As long as electrons are experiencing nice attraction, when they have less energy, then the atom can be stable. So always electrons which are present in the outermost shells are not stable, because they won't experience much attraction from nucleus. Their energies are very much high. I told you, no, high energy, less stable. Okay, since the electrons are very less stable, which are present in the last shells, they can easily participate in the chemical reaction. Less stable means what? It eagerly waits for the chemical reaction. So that's why it's always outermost electrons that participate in chemical reaction. It's because their energy is very high. Okay, they are not stable. They can easily go out of the atom. Okay, so this is what the concept that is there behind the negative value of energy. Okay, so slowly that negative value goes on, decreases. Energy decreases as you go to higher level. Okay, your values are becoming negative to positive. Is that clear? So here negative value decreasing means what? Energy is increasing for an electron as it's located in higher and higher shells. Okay, fine. That's all about the Bohr's concept. Hope everything has become clear for you. So this is the entire theoretical concept behind Bohr's model of an atom. So now using this Bohr's model, in my next class we will try to discuss about hydrogen's line emission spectrum. Okay, I told you, no, Bohr has given the best explanation that why radiations are emitted. I think you understood why radiations are emitted, right? What actually happened in the atom for the emission of radiation, all that you understood, right? So we will discuss much detailed aspects of hydrogen spectrum, and before that let us discuss numericals on all these Bohr's formulas. So whatever the formulas we studied on them, let's see how a numericals can be asked for board examination as well as for competitive examination. So my next video is on numericals of Bohr's theory. Very, very important. Okay, so do watch that video and do subscribe our channel to learn the concepts in a easiest way and in a detailed way. Thank you so much.